On this episode of DC On Screen, we talk Shazam numbers, who looks to be replacing Dave Bautista in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, Tom Welling on Arrow, the Titans Batman casting of Iain Glen, problems on the set of Swamp Thing, and Jason decides to metaphorically run through a park kicking puppies and popping kids' balloons. All that and more right after this.
Are you struggling to conceive? You have options, and at Piedmont Reproductive Endocrinology Group, we'll make sure you have the guidance and support you need. PREG is known for individualized fertility care that's unique to every patient. We take the time to provide a reassuring and empowering experience because we believe that you deserve nothing less. Let us help you on your journey to parenthood. Visit us at pregonline.com to learn more. Get the guidance and support you need at Piedmont Reproductive Endocrinology Group.
You think of Earth as a singular planet. In fact, it is anything but. For this is a story not of a universe, but a multiverse, where universes and planets, such as Earth, were replicated and mirrored across a vibrating, infinite plane. Some barely different from the next. Others drastically so.
This is DC On Screen. Every week, Dave and Jason talk about the multiverse of DC properties on film and television. But be warned, if it's been officially released, you can expect they'll spoil it.
Welcome into DC On Screen. I am your weathered host, David C. Robertson, and this, a feisty cherub of a man, my co-host, Jason Goss.
Hello. I'm not feisty today.
Well, I used feisty cherub of a man. It's a quote from the episode of The Simpsons where Bart breaks his arm and it basically becomes Jimmy Stewart, you know, and he's like watching Flanders and he thinks from his window he thinks Flanders has killed his wife. Mm-hmm. And Lisa's trying to explain to him, like, you've gone mad, you need to focus on other things, and he's like, you're right, I should focus on my play or whatever. And he's like, he starts reading like the descriptions for the characters, and one of them is a feisty cherub of a man.
That feels Conan-era.
Oh, it does. But, you know, I was thinking about it because Disney Plus, they announced that they were going to be putting all of The Simpsons on their streaming service at launch.
I saw that. That's a big win.
It is a big win. I'm assuming they're going to keep Family Guy somewhere else.
I mean,
but yeah,
it's under contract with Hulu for a while. I don't know how long it's going to last, but
that's a good point. But you know, Disney did say that they were going to be keeping most of their adult content on Hulu, or more adult-oriented content from Fox over on Hulu.
Yeah, let me rephrase. Don't worry. We're going to make sure we differentiate this in a way where you have to buy both. Don't you concern yourself with that.
No, yeah, that's right. Anyway.
As far as Feisty Cherub goes, I'm fighting a hangover because I played pool with a colleague last night, and 34-year-old Jason does not realize when he's around a pool table that he's not 22-year-old Jason.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That's a real thing that happens.
It's a real thing that happens.
Before we jump into some news this week, we'd like to thank our wonderful patrons for supporting the show.
Yes.
Including our newest patron, Brandon B. Thank you so much for joining the $5 tier. You've been a loyal listener for, I think it's safe to say, years now?
It's been a minute.
We've always enjoyed hearing from him on Twitter. And thank you so much for tossing us dim shekels, baby.
Yes.
And if you're interested in becoming a patron, there is a $1 a month option. You will be thanked on air. But if you choose the $5 tier, you'll be getting extra content like Jason's pull list. You'll be getting Marvel reviews. You'll be getting Chasing Squirrels, which is tangents from the cutting room floor. And you'll definitely be getting the little warm-up that Jason and I just recorded before the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we've got other stuff coming down the line. So hop on board, and we will love you forever. I mean, we're pretty easy on that. We'll love you anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so news. Shazam, there is a bit of folderol amongst fans and...
No.
Yeah. And Marvel people who like to troll the shit out of DC fans, but I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there. Domestically, Shazam has done 96 million, and worldwide it's done 260 million.
Yeah, they were hoping for more.
I think they're fine. They've doubled it. They've only been out for 2 weeks proper. It feels like more because they did that advanced screening.
Yeah, and the advanced screening was worth $3 million, I want to say.
Yeah, and it outdid Aquaman. But it's been number one for 2 weekends. The sequel is assured, guys. This is not a failure. This was a small budget. Box Office Mojo says it was $100 million on the budget. I've read anywhere from 80 to 100. This was a largely unknown character to the general audience, and it was stuck between Captain Marvel and Endgame. This is a win.
Yeah.
This is, I think, roughly what they expected. Shazam is critically acclaimed, and aside from a few asshats and a few out-of-touch parents who apparently don't know that PG stands for parental guidance, this film has great word of mouth, and I think it's going to do gangbusters on home video, honestly. I think it's going to do fantastically on home video.
Yeah. The site I used to put my numbers together says $85 million on the budget. And 263 worldwide. I mean, that's not nothing. It's 3 times what it cost to make.
That's not bad, guys. It's really not. And
it is, again, still number one. Both weeks it's been out. We'll probably again be number one this weekend. And then we'll lose to Avengers Endgame because everything will lose to Avengers Endgame.
Everything will lose to Avengers Endgame. It's just going to happen. But
that's a foregone conclusion.
I think the sequel to Shazam will probably do better than Shazam, depending on where they put it.
Yeah, I think they need to, I don't know how they ended up with this weekend. I really don't know. I don't know. I don't know how, like, production wise this ended up being the weekend they chose to release it, like in between those two movies. I mean, they did give themselves some padding from Captain Marvel, which is good, but they didn't give themselves enough padding for Endgame. Like, they're just not going to get some of that money that they otherwise would have gotten. I hope they get a better weekend.
No-win.
Yeah. I mean, it was always going to have a limiting factor to it. But whatever 2 is, Black Adam v the Marvel family or whatever, I hope it's got a clear shot. Just give it like one good month of nothing. I don't even know what to predict in the Marvel movie catalog. They're kind of being quiet about what's coming up in a couple of years.
Well, they've said the sequel is probably, Dwayne Johnson has said that his Black Adam movie is coming out or going to be shooting in the next year, which he's been saying that for a few years.
Yeah.
And as we said last week, but we had the producers say that they were going to have to make Shazam 2 pretty quickly because the kids are growing up too quickly. I don't think the sequel is going to have Black Adam in it. I think it'll probably be Mr. Mind. And then we'll get a Black Adam film.
Maybe.
With them, maybe in the third. But, I mean, they've got to face off at some point, right?
Yeah, I mean, Dwayne Johnson himself kind of hyped, man, I want to crack at those kids. But that was just him talking. That was just some Instagram stuff. I don't know. Then again, I mean, it's not like he hasn't been in the room and in production meetings and been excited about stuff. But he's not completely guessing. But we don't know when he's talking out of school or not exactly.
Yeah. Now, Michelle Borth, who played, spoilers for Shazam if you haven't seen it, just, you know the rule on our show. If it's been released, we're likely to spoil it. But
yeah,
here we go. Michelle Borth, the adult Shazam version of Mary Bromfield, according to Parade anyway, has been signed for 5 films in the DCEU franchise.
Nice. That's bold.
That's pretty big. Who knows if they'll use all that, but they got these people early on.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Over to Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey is wrapped. They shared a photo online. Is Margot Robbie sitting in her little chair? Lucky Chap is the account. Lucky Chap Entertainment is her production company that shared this. And it's got her. She's in her little costume with all the fringe and stuff hanging off it. I did not notice before that a lot of the fringe is partially made out of shredded up caution tape. But nice yeah, Birds of Prey has wrapped. They've wrapped production. That went by really quickly.
It did. But then they knew it was going to be a tight kind of street level, pretty low budget movie. So that makes sense.
And that's what Walter Hamada is doing. That's why they brought him over from New Line to work this, because they're going to make bank off of these low budget movies. They just are.
Yeah, they really are.
But yeah, so on the chair, there's a Birds of Prey logo, and it uses these weapon silhouettes to create the letters. Mm-hmm. And have you seen this thing? Mm-mm. It's like B is a domino mask, and I and R are separated by an arrow, and D looks like a pair of women's lips. S has a knife through it to make the S symbol, or to make the S. O has a bat in the middle of it. The eye of the P is a diamond. There's a mallet in the middle of the R. The E is a hair comb.
Nice.
I mean, it's nicely done. And then they've got these like neon letters that says, you know, and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn. I like the style of it.
Yeah, kind of looking at it now. That's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say hair comb on E?
That's what it looks like to me.
That is the thing you put between your toes when you're painting your toes.
Oh, is that what that is? It just look like a comb to me. Okay.
The E on Prey,
that
right?
works too. Yeah.
I'm 90% sure.
Okay. Well, that's cool too. That also works. Over to Suicide.
A lot of weapons.
Yeah, a lot of weapons.
Like 40% of the letters are weaponry based. It's pretty great.
Over to the Suicide Squad. It looks like Variety has reported this week that John Cena was being eyed for the Suicide Squad, and it looks like he's replacing Dave Bautista's character. It looks like he's probably going to be playing Peacemaker. Dave Bautista left because of scheduling conflicts. He has a massive work schedule. And this was Justin Kroll added that on Twitter after he posted his article. So that's sad. I really wanted to see Dave Bautista work with James Gunn again. I'm sure I will in Guardians 3.
Yeah, I mean, he's presumably still going to be there. That seemed to be a forgive and forget situation over at Disney right now.
Mm-hmm. Of course, I haven't seen John Cena really act in anything, so I don't know how good he is.
I've seen clips from stuff, like somebody showed me the trailer from like Blockers, and I thought, okay, well, it's funny, but I don't know. I've seen him here and there, and I've never thought, well, this is terrible. So let's just go with optimistic.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
With optimistic.
All right, so there was we had a stunt guy, Nick McGinless. I don't know what he was responding to, but he says this is correct, and then he says I played Ares in Justice League, not the previous actor, not David Thewlis. He says I was not credited for my work. We shot a whole fight sequence with Darkseid. I trained for 4 months to get in that shape. Zach was amazing to work with. Thanks for posting this. I don't know what he posted, but that does sync up with a piece of news that came out recently that Ray Porter was cast as Darkseid in Justice League. The Exiles Network has reported this. Mm-hmm. And Ray Porter was like on an episode of ER. He's been on a couple of things. Shameless, The Mentalist. He's been on Modern Family and The Kids Are All Right. He also does a ton of voice work on Audible. He reads a lot of audiobooks, I guess. And Zack Snyder has apparently pretty much confirmed this by within like a day of the news dropping. He introduced him on Vero and said he's the man. So,
Who's this fella again? Who's this fella again?
Ray Porter.
Ray Porter. Just want to know who I'm talking about here.
I'm assuming he would be in like a mocap suit or something. But I think the voice is probably what would be the most.
That's crazy. That guy trained for 4 months?
No. The other guy was, the guy that trained for 4 months was Nick McGinless.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay. I was about to say, that guy, oh man. That guy's got a little chub to him. That was going to be the hard 4 months. Yeah, Nick
McGinless was playing Ares in the Darkseid fight.
Okay. All right. I'm back.
And then he subsequently said that he believes that they were going to put David Thewlis's face on top of his body and probably have voice work, but come in. So, which by the way, if you look at the theatrical cut of Justice League, David Thewlis is credited as playing Ares.
Nice. Maybe a shadow somewhere in that early scene or something.
Mm-hmm. So there was a sequence, and we know that Darkseid was in the Snyder Cut because there was a sequence that Zach storyboarded, and he said over and over again, and even in relation to this, I shoot what I draw. And there's a storyboard that's like a camera close up into Darkseid. We see a mother box twirl and then click into place, and it looks like there's an explosion that like basically wipes out a city. And we like close in on the freaking Hall of Justice.
Of course.
And just past the Hall of Justice is the giant Omega symbol from the Nightmare sequence in BVS. So apparently that is shot somewhere.
In some capacity.
And now this, I couldn't find anything from this piece of news except from Suicide Squad cast. So credit to Scott and Tim for this one. But I, have not been on Twitter because some asshole leaked a bunch of stuff from Endgame.
I meant to do like a PSA up front for anybody listening. Avoid Facebook and Twitter for a while if you're attached to spoilers or, to not being spoiled.
Right. So I've pretty much been ignoring most of Twitter, but I would not have seen this. But Scott and Tim reported this on their show, on their latest episode. And apparently there's a renewed campaign for the Snyder Cut advocates to call Warner Brothers. Mm-hmm. But at this point, they are getting stopped by the operators, and they're not letting it go through. But there are apparently, according to them, 2 different videos from 2 different people that have gotten this response, where the operators tell them no comment can be made until it is announced in the trades, and that's when they're asked for a comment on the status of the Snyder Cut, which is interesting wording.
Yeah, but that's a boilerplate response. Like, it's only interesting wording if you're looking for that.
Maybe, but
without any backstory whatsoever, an operator would be prompted. It's like it's going to be in writing in front of her. Just say nothing can be said until it's in the trades.
Right, but then when they were pressed, they said an announcement is forthcoming.
Again, also,
I mean, I knew you were going to take this position on it.
It's just that's on their script. I think if we could find one of them off duty, buy him a couple drinks, and say, "This is what you're told to say for like all the calls," right?
You've literally got Zack Snyder saying, "It's done. They have it. It's up to them to release it," and you're like, "Nah, it's not there."
No, because there's no way an operator is privy to that. There's no fucking way.
Oh no, I don't think an operator is privy to it.
They have no idea what dialogue they're engaged in right now. This is a complete left field situation. This is a bunch of people coming at the operator who's just trying to do their 8 to 5 with some shit they weren't even paying attention to, and then they give them some boilerplate responses. My argument is not that the operators know what conversation they're having, which I do think they have some idea. People are actively calling as a movement or a campaign, but I think they got called enough that I think Warner Brothers gave them a response that they had to say. But I do think the wording is interesting. I'm not saying it's happening or not, but I feel like there is at least like 50 different ways 50 other ways you could say that doesn't make it sound like there is an announcement that's, coming in a positive light. You know what I mean? I don't think they changed a single word, and on purpose. I think that's exactly what would happen if you called in for any other movie, and I'd almost like to test it. Call in and ask for the, I don't know what Warner Brothers owns well enough to do this. I mean, but you could call in and ask for the so-and-so cut of whatever, and I think you're going to be told the same thing. And it's specifically because, like, let's follow the logic. What good does it do them when they know there's a campaign happening? They have people. They have people in charge of their social media that tell them, hey, this is what they're up to now. What good would it possibly do them to say, you know what we should do? We should give them some vague wording. That'll settle them down.
Well, I mean, I don't think this is that vague. I think it's saying that there is an announcement coming. They said, literally, an announcement is forthcoming. That doesn't mean that it's bad or good. It just means that there's one coming. But
we'll see.
In my mind, why would they announce something that was negative? Why would they make it a grand announcement about the Snyder Cut and say, it's not happening?
I mean, I agree. From your viewpoint, I get it. Like, I get why it looks like that. I'm also saying, if you remove the idea that you think it's coming out, what you have left is a bunch of operators with absolutely no skin in this game reading off the script.
I mean, I'm keeping
And
my
it
hopes low.
sounds that
Don't get me
way
wrong.
because that's what it would sound like.
I mean, my
I
hopes
still want
are-
to see it. I mean, I'm rooting
yeah,
for this.
absolutely.
It just doesn't. That's not like I'm not going to bed tonight thinking, oh, any day now. I'm not doing that.
Oh, I'm not doing that. Like I said, my hopes are so low, man. My hopes are like in the left shoe of Jimmy Hoffa, deep inside of the concrete. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I get it.
But you know, I can still look up and see, you know, light glimmering at the top of the ocean.
I get it.
And I think it's interesting wording.
It's like from one viewpoint, it's really interesting wording, and from another viewpoint, it's completely the least interesting wording purposefully. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, hate to be a wet blanket on that, but that's what it feels like to me.
I mean, I knew when I was putting it in the notes that I knew you were going to be the wet blanket on that.
Sorry to continue my stance on the issue.
And I will be glad when you're wrong.
Dude, if it happens, I'm not...
Don't get me wrong. I know you will be too. I think you'd be very interested to see it as well.
I'd love to see it. I'd be more than happy to be wrong about this. Mm-hmm. And I think eventually I will. It's just going to be in like 23 years.
I don't think it'll be that long.
Maybe 7.
I think it'll be July. I think they'll announce it at Comic-Con. Honestly do.
No, there's going to be all those people with the I Love ZS shirts again.
It's not going away. The only way to move on. And you know, Brent from Fans Without Borders was bringing this up the other day, and time goes by so quickly. But he was pointing out that like if they had just let him do what he was gonna do, his like 5-movie plan, like it would have been over like next year.
Yeah, by now. Yeah. This would be wrapping up, and they could have moved on with their lives. And now the problem is, if they do release it and it does well, it's a lose-lose for them. Like if they release it and it doesn't do anything, what do they gain? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. They'll get some DVD sales out of it, but if they have to put any money into the production of actually finishing this thing, which they would, because it was definitely not in post when he was taken out. So
I don't know where it was.
They finished, as far as I remember, they finished principal photography, and then not too long after, Zach was gone.
No. There are people who have said they saw the assembly cut, and not everything. Like there was CG. There had been CGI done on it. Like it wasn't completely like Zach.
I mean, you can. It's not like they start post all at once. I mean, the stuff that you know is this is going to be in there. 90% sure this shot's going in. You go ahead and start. You get a head start on it.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like I've said this many times, so I'll say it quickly.
Yeah.
The assembly cut is not the same as one you want to see. To get to the want to see part, you have to spend money. If you spend that money and it doesn't pay off, as in you don't have enough sales to justify that money, you lost. If you spend that money and it does pay off, as in you make a ton of money on it, and you've created a rabid fan base of people who are like, oh my God, but not only the people who understood his movies and wanted to see more, but the other people who like were going to be won over by this movie and thought, you know what, I see what he's going for now. Let's say all that works out. Well, now you've got to make a whole new strand of movies with artists that you've already let off the hook. Yeah,
I mean, I understand your points, but then I'm also thinking the same. We've seen several people say different variations of how done it is, and I'm not sure how accurate any of them are. And then you also have Zack Snyder, who's standing there, albeit tipsy, telling fans, "No, it's done.
Yeah, no,
I have copies." Not. So I don't know how done he means, but just to shut the fans up, it might be worth it. And to be clear, and I think most of them know, and the ones who don't would probably just be happy to see the Snyder Cut. Be like, okay, well, I got my Snyder Cut. But we know
like you would have to announce it with terms. Okay, here's what you need to know. This version of the cinematic universe going forward is no more. It's not in continuity. This is a different version. This is a different sliver of the dimensional gaps.
As I understand it,
show it to you. But
as
don't
I understand
ask for more.
As I understand it, the Snyder Cut, as it exists, was already altered from the 5-movie plan, because that 5-movie plan was before BVS came out.
I know. Yeah, the 5-movie plan, as it was originally planned, crumpled in a meeting one day when he mentioned Batman, and the executives just took over and said, "Why don't we have them in the same film?" Well,
no, I think the 5-movie plan came after that. But
no, See, I thought he had
Yeah.
5 movies that he wanted to do, and then he said it was like when he brought up Batman, it was he couldn't get that back in the can or however he put it. And
Well,
then
no,
suddenly
that
he had
was-
to do a Batman movie with Superman.
I don't think the five movie plan didn't happen until BVS. Like when he was like, oh shit, we're gonna do this, because I don't think they were planning on making a cinematic universe until
I'd have to go
after
back.
Man of Steel.
I'd have to go back, but I
Was
could
made.
swear to you we already had been told about Justice League 1 and 2 that early on.
No, we didn't know what was happening when Man of Steel came out.
Okay.
We just knew they were making a Man of Steel because
I'm willing
I
to
remember
believe
it was
you,
a big
'cause
deal.
It's 3 years
It was
ago,
a-
and I really don't know how to. I can't stand by anything I'm saying right now
It was a big deal when
without some research.
well, Man of Steel was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was a big
So
deal
it was
when
5 years
I-
ago. Then what we're talking about.
when I read in a trade that like Zack Snyder confirmed that those whales saved Clark in Man of Steel, or the Aquaman saved those whales. The Aquaman made the whales save Clark in Man of Steel, and I was like, holy shit, he said Aquaman.
All right. Well,
Anyway, so Justice League, the Snyder Cut as it exists, is whether it's finished or not, or how finished it is. If they spent the money and they released it, which I do believe they will, because it's not going away. And the Squadcast guys were even joking around, like, I hope they realize that after this comes out, though, it's going to be like release the Ayer cut.
no, it's gonna get worse. They're either gonna create a mini market of like B-side variations of their movies that have no continuity, or it's just no.
I'm not
No.
convinced the Snyder Cut would have no continuity. I think it ends pretty much the same way the Whedon Cut ends. I really do. And also, Jason Momoa outright said Aquaman picks up after Zack Snyder's version of Justice League.
Yeah, we know that part, or at least as insofar as he understood it, we know it. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, I can't anymore. I just can't. I can't even.
It'll be all right, Jason.
I've long been at the point where it's like I want a press release from Warner Brothers, or I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's frustrating.
All right, you want to talk about TV then?
Oh yeah, let's do TV. TV sounds great. TV we know is happening.
Well, actually, I guess we don't. But according to a fan that attended the Armageddon Expo in New Zealand, Tom Welling has confirmed that he's going to be appearing on Arrow next season.
Ooh, really?
He didn't say who he'd play.
They convinced him to go back to Vancouver for something?
I guess so. We know that he was offered the role of Superman on Supergirl a few years ago, and he turned it down.
Yeah.
So, we don't know who he's playing. I assume it's not going to be Superman.
No. Although that would have been great, but you'd have had to explain like another Green Arrow and stuff.
I mean,
I know
doesn't
you don't
have
have
to-
to, but you can't cast him in the exact same role that has 10 years worth of story and not explain something to me.
why not? We have John Wesley Shipp running around.
Yeah, but they explained it.
Yeah, but I feel like in the explanation of John Wesley Shipp, you can do whatever you want with Tom Welling.
Maybe.
We all know it's a multiverse.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you just explain quickly. Oh, he was Clark in another multiverse. That's kind of, we burned that one to the ground too. What? Really? Yeah, everyone's dead. No, we're not going to talk about it anymore though.
Everyone made it but Chloe.
I formed bonds with these characters over 10 years. All dead. All dead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, you just have like the Smallville universe collapsing. Tom Welling comes to a portal. He's like, luckily I saved all of my friends, except for Chloe.
No saving her. Next question.
Yeah. A report from Deadline says that Batwoman is considered a lock and is reportedly already has half of their writing staff in place. Already has a writing staff in place. I don't know why I saw the word has and thought it said half. But yeah, already has a writing staff in place. So
I believe that.
I'm pretty sure they're getting picked up.
Yeah, I'd be willing to bet on that at this point.
This is really exciting, and when they dropped the news, I didn't know the guy from Adam. I still kind of don't, but according to Deadline, Iain Glen, a 57-year-old actor who's known from Game of Thrones and something called Jack Taylor, which was recommended me by Scott of Squadcast, is playing Batman in Titans this year. It's season 2.
I didn't know him either. And I'm not trying to be the cliche I don't watch Game of Thrones guy. I just mean I don't know the guy. But
I love how that has even become a meme. The cliche, I don't watch Game of Thrones person.
I know. It used to be Sopranos and stuff like that. There's always a show on where there's a group of people that pride themselves on not watching it.
But I'm not doing that. I'm not being the douchey edgelord who doesn't watch it. I'm being the guy that's like, I'm sorry, I don't want to be burned again. I'll get around to it, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's my thing anyway.
I've told people, I've said this many times, I think. I watched 4 episodes. It seemed like it was going kind of slow. I didn't have time for anything else on my roster right then. 2 years later, I'm told, like, oh, dude, the 5th episode, everybody starts dying. I'm like, oh, well, they didn't. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I would have, if I'd pitched in one more week, maybe I'd be there every week. But I have lost good shows because I just didn't have time. And, I mean, we haven't even actually listed numerically how many DC shows are on at any given point. We should probably just make that list for our own sake. But it's a lot.
Yeah. Like I said, Scott
and I watch
over on Facebook.
all of the Marvel stuff too. It's a lot.
Oh, yeah. I'm so behind on some of the Marvel stuff. But yeah, Scott told me, you've got to watch Jack Taylor right now. And I was like, no time for love, Dr. Jones.
Show me a clip, sir. That's what I've got time for.
And that's what I did. I went to YouTube and I found some clips. I mean, I couldn't find any clips of him doing an American accent. And maybe they won't have him do an American accent. I don't want to be presumptuous. But he seems like a badass. An old badass.
All I know is the images I saw from my quick little search, and the only thing I could tell you really is, yeah, if you dye that dude's hair black, he'll do.
Yeah.
And also, all of their other casting has been on point.
Mm-hmm. The description for him says, after decades of fighting crime as Batman, billionaire Bruce Wayne is just as driven to protect Gotham from evil as he was in his prime. Needing to reconcile his relationship with Dick Grayson, the duo hope to forge a new dynamic as Bruce tries to help his former sidekick and the Titans achieve success. I'm totally down.
Yep.
I watched some bits of Jack Taylor. I don't know. Maybe it was his girlfriend, his wife. I have no idea. She's got some kind of breast cancer situation in the clip I watched. The doctor was recommending she have a double mastectomy. She's like, I don't want to. And he's like, well, you know, most patients regret not taking my recommendations. And then after she gets up and leaves, he gets up and gets in the dude's face. He's like, next time be more respectful or I'll break your effing femur. And I was like, well, that was Batman.
that was a Batman in a lab coat. I like it.
It was a thick brogue,
Scrubs Batman.
But I heard Batman there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, we had a little Swamp Thing teaser dropped. It was just Swamp Thing poking his head out of a swamp with some ominous music. And that came just before or just after some pretty gnarly news about Swamp Thing. It looks like they have cut their production from 13 episodes to 10. The decision came Tuesday night. Multiple sources within the industry said the production's crew was assembled by producers. They were told that the show would be shutting down after filming is completed on episode 10. Apparently there's going to be some rewrites. They're going to try to give the season a satisfactory ending in episode 10. Yeah.
Well, that is interesting.
And the Hollywood Reporter is suggesting that it's due to creative differences between Creative and Warner Brothers. Actress Virginia Madsen on Instagram posted and quickly deleted a picture of Swamp Thing and said, I'm beyond sad. What a terrible decision. We have been cut to the core by those who have never set foot in the swamp. They made her delete that shit quick. She even said, like, even though I was told not to, I'll use the hashtag Swamp Thing. Yeah, they had her kill that real quick.
Yeah.
Something's going on. Now, some people think it's, some people are reporting that it's an indication that DC Universe isn't doing well.
I mean, I
think it's interesting.
Wouldn't say critically it's not doing well. Critically, it's doing pretty great.
Critically, it's doing great. I can't imagine that it's a coincidence this happened right after the big Apple announcements with their streaming service. I don't know. I don't know what's happening. I hope everything's okay.
Yeah. It could just be the show, though. Swamp Thing's a hard thing to get right. Mm-hmm. Two things might be happening. One, it could be an absolute shit show. Mm-hmm. They've gotten, X amount of episodes into filming, and thought, this is just not coming out to be what I want it to be. Warner Brothers is watching the dailies or whatever they're doing now and just saying, like, no, we're not. This isn't what we paid you to make. That I've heard of that conversation happening before several times. It gets to a head where it's like, look, you hired me to do this, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. We've all heard backstories of like conversations like that. But if that's the case, then yeah, it may just be a shit show. And they just told him, like, I'm not paying for any more episodes of this show. Wrap it up and get it off my network.
Right.
Could also be, I mean, there's a chance, because right at the moment, like, Titans did the same thing. Wrapped up earlier than we were expected, but they had already renewed for season 2, so they were excited about that. That went a different way. Like when Titans wrapped for season 2 and reduced their episode count, it was because they were trying to make sure they set up something bigger for next year. Like it was mid season, they kind of had an idea like, what if we did it this way? And it was a creative decision to do what they did. Mm-hmm. This sounds more shit, Joey.
Yeah,
this doesn't sound as optimistic as that.
Yeah,
we'll wait for somebody other than sources to really be sure of it.
Well, I mean, I think the most damning thing is Virginia Madsen.
That's pretty bad. Yeah.
But, you know, a lot of times the actors aren't really privy to how bad things are going creatively. Like,
yeah, you put on a happy face when you come back from the meetings with the execs and say, we're doing great. It's going to be fun. They love it.
Well, I mean, you think about, like, how often are they going to see, like, a green tennis ball and just react to that and think that everything looks great? Yeah. Or like, you know, a man in a suit and they're like, well, it'll be, you know, cleaned up in post. And you think that like for instance, Star Trek V, notoriously terrible Star Trek film, which I kind of like it, but whatever. Originally they had they had in the budget, or they had in the script, I should say, a number of like these like molten rock creatures. And then by the time they got to the end of the movie, they realized, oh, we don't have the budget for all these molten rock creatures. We have the budget for one. So they made one. And it looked so bad, they were like, okay, we're going to cut like the whole ending of this movie and rewrite it so there are no molten rock creatures.
Nice. Yeah.
And they've shown the footage of them. They look awful. I'm glad those things weren't in there. Or that one thing was not in there. So, you know, it could be something like that. We don't know.
It could be. And
knocking out 3 episodes is a pretty...
There's still time.
Pretty heavy thing.
I don't know how much Warner Brothers, as far as DC Universe is going, is really listening to the fans and putting out what they want. Like, It's also telling to me that, like, hadn't Doom Patrol Season 2 been picked up already?
I don't know.
I don't know about that. But Titans was picked up for Season 2 before the first episode dropped. Mm-hmm. Which might indicate that Warner Brothers is kind of watching this stuff and deciding for themselves this has legs or it doesn't, and buying in regardless of what the fans say. So it may not affect anything if the actual show comes out and we all look at it and say, well, this is the best Swamp Thing take I've ever seen in my life. What are you doing? More, please.
Yeah, I mean, I've also seen people conject that it has something to do with the Warner Brothers streaming service that's releasing soon.
See, they're going to fold that in, is my bet.
I think they will.
If anything, they want to make sure they've got properties the way Netflix has properties, the way Hulu has properties, the way all these people have properties. They've got their original content that's theirs. You know you're going to buy in for that.
Yeah, like at the very least, I think...
If all Netflix did was release a comedy special every now and then, I would still have to buy Netflix.
At the very least, I think they'll probably make it to where you can do either or both in a bundle.
Maybe. I think it just gets bundled over, personally.
Maybe. But then you got to wonder, like, will they put will they still have the comics on that service, on the Warner service?
It's a question. They could. I mean, Disney has all the rights whatsoever to say they don't, fuck Comixology and the Marvel Unlimited, and they've not chosen to do that. Mm-hmm. I think it really will. I think matter. Let's put it this way: they also know their own numbers, so they know whether these shows are doing well. Mm-hmm. And I haven't really found a good source about ratings for the DC universe.
I haven't either.
So that'll play into it.
Yeah, I guess we'll see.
And as far as they go now, the weirder they've gotten, the better it is. Like Doom Patrol's just phenomenal.
Yeah, which I don't know. To me, is like the weirder Doom Patrol gets, the more I'm like, man, this is going to be canceled so quick. I love this. The more I love it, the more certain I am it's going to go away.
Yeah, like every time I see them just go another step closer into insanity, I just think, oh God, I can't believe I'm getting to see this.
That's the primary reason. Like we don't have any numbers for CBS All Access either, but you keep having these fans who hate Discovery, and they're like, every little thing, every little news bit, they're like, oh, Discovery's in trouble. It's getting canceled. And I'm like, I enjoy Discovery. It's going to, but, there's just enough there that annoys me that it's going to keep getting picked up. Don't worry. Like, it hasn't reached the threshold for
I don't like it enough. It'll be fine.
Right. It hasn't gone to that place of, I love this unabashedly.
Yeah.
If I loved it unabashedly, it'd be canceled.
Immediately. I understand.
So there needs to be some little thing there that's just kind of hanging around going like, the holograms weren't there back in these days. Oh, yeah. It'll be renewed.
It's the Firefly effect.
Yes. Which I do very much enjoy Star Trek Discovery most of the time.
Mm-hmm. But I feel you.
Anyway.
I wish we knew more. Objectively knew more, but it's all sources and trying to feel it out.
Mm-hmm. All right. One final piece of news. Greg Weisman announced that's a wrap. All 26 episodes of Young Justice Outsiders are in the can. Thanks to Brandon Vietti, our cast and crew, and our amazing fans.
Nice.
And that's it. That's the news for this week, guys.
I don't really... that's another one where I don't know if we're going to get another season, but I've enjoyed this one.
Mm-hmm.
It's glad to see those guys back.
Yeah. I have had my issues with it, and apparently the comic book gods have heard my cries and decided to double down on the things I don't like, because now we're getting Markovia and Black Lightning as well. But that's fine, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you'll enjoy Markovia in Young Justice Part 2, but we'll see.
You think?
I think so.
Can you promise me, Jason?
Nope. I sure can't.
I'm going to make sure we talk about the Snyder Cut next week.
No, please. Please, no.
I'm just going to start leaving you out of the conversation. I'll just cut in with my own little thing. By the way, here's an update on Snyder Cut. I'm hopeful. We know Jason isn't. Goodbye.
That's it. That's about it.
I wish you were more hopeful, man. I want you to be happy.
We need a sound effect that we can use, because I don't actually want to do it, but we need the sound of a crow being murdered and then chewed on and eaten. In case I'm wrong.
I think I'll try to figure that out.
Maybe a hat if you want to go with less violent. Whatever
That's
the sound
terrible.
of a person eating a hat would be.
Oh.
I mean, I will for sure say, hey, I was wrong.
Yeah. I know, you're pretty good about that.
It happens so often I have practice.
I don't know about that, but okay. All right. My throat hurts, so I'm going to wrap this up.
Yeah, wrap it up. Go get well. I'm going to take a shower.
Yeah. You can find me. I tweet at David C. Robertson. Jason tweets at, at DuckDuckGoss on Twitter.
Not for another week or so, though.
Yeah. And the show tweets at DC on Screen. DCOnScreen.com for every episode. Of course, there's a Patreon out there, patreon.com/DCOnScreen. And we've already given you the rundown on that.
Until after Endgame comes out, you will only be able to find me at dconscreen@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I've literally deleted the Facebook and Twitter icons from my phone.
Mm-hmm.
Lest I forget and accidentally start scrolling.
In the next couple of weeks, I hope we get to do Justice League versus the Fatal Five. I'd really like to watch that. I'm hearing really great things about it.
Mm-hmm. I watched the first few minutes. It's on DC Universe.
Oh, I know. Oh, I'm aware.
No, I know. Yeah, I watched about the first 10 minutes. It was good.
Cool. So until next time, go watch Shazam and keep some DC on your screen.
Our opening narration was from Dan Jurgens' The History of the DC Universe, Part 3 of 10, as featured in DC 52, Week 4. It was performed by me, David C. Robertson. Intro music by Jason Goss and Michael Shackelford. Michael's band, Future Elevators, could be found on Spotify or future-elevators.com. Our introduction was performed by Effie Ophelders of the fantastic podcast Stealing the Remote, which lives on SoundCloud. It can also be found on iTunes and Stitcher. We are proudly in partnership with TV Time, TV show calendar and social media site that lets you keep track of what you're watching, what your friends are watching, and where you all left off. DC On Screen is a maladjusted production. Visit maladjusted.tv for more from me and Jason, including sketch comedy, an improvised web series, vlogs, parodies, and more.
Are you maladjusted?
Why don't more infant formula companies use organic, grass-fed whole milk instead of skim? Why don't more infant formula companies use the latest breast milk science? Why don't more infant formula companies run their own clinical trials? Why don't more infant formula companies use more of the proteins found in breast milk? Why don't more infant formula companies have their own factories instead of outsourcing their manufacturing? We wondered the same thing. So we made ByHeart, a better formula for formula. Learn more at byheart.com.